Yay! Hi! Hello, everyone in the Women Lighting the Way Face group. Welcome to panel number one. We have Isaiah Gabriel, my co-founder, co-host, Laura Muirfield, Julie Deasing, Michelle Aspinwall, Christy Iris. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for panel number one. These are the U.S. speakers, minus Ruth. Ruth wasn't feeling well, so we're sending her love and healing vibes, some relaxing vibes. This is a high energy day for everyone here, for everyone around the globe. I won't list all the things that are happening. Let's just all take a deep breath. We're going to release all of that. It's not going to bother us. It's not going to interfere with our panel here today. And everyone joining, if you have ever been on when Isaiah is doing a card pull, you will see that we are using Restream to come into everyone's channels and into the group. If you have a question, you can put that in the comments and we will see it. Usually, if you were not already registered with Restream, we will simply see Facebook user. So please register with Restream if you would like us to see your name. It's not absolutely necessary, but we welcome your questions for any of the panelists, any of the speakers that are here with us today. Please just type them in the comments on whatever channel you are on and we will see them. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining me. Yay. So let's start off with these incredible talks for year two. I am so thankful and grateful that you all opened up and shared your story for everyone. You know, just this piece, right? I mean, our stories are lifelong, epic, epic stories, but here we've shared just pieces of these stories with everyone. And I'm going to start going around and asking everyone just a general question. So, Laura, you are immediately on my right. I'm going to start with you. So, you talked about choosing yourself, and you gave us a few examples of times when you put yourself first and you put your wants and needs ahead of others. Is there anything that you think you may have left out of this story, of these pieces that you shared with us?
Well, I mean, there's so much more to all the stories for sure, but I think that, you know, at least for part of what I shared as far as, you know, like leaving my home at 17, that there's sometimes, you know, things build up and they build up and then you hit that wall and you don't necessarily know that you're really choosing yourself. But you're just like, no, this is it and I've got to go. Hopefully, you know, I feel like it's a more empowered place to come from if we don't, you know, get to that point maybe of where, you know, being pushed to the wall and, you know, cornered, and we could just, you know, choose what we want before we get to that point. And that's where I think having good personal policies, what I call personal policies, boundaries, in place can really help. You know, really just help to guide you, and I think there's also a level of getting to know yourself. If you can get to know yourself and know, you know, which also I guess kind of goes hand in hand with personal policies of what you will and you won't accept in your life. So you're not coming from a disempowered place. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's so much to it. But that's a brief little bit of it, I would say.
Well, being 17, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe do you have a lot of practice before you're 17 in putting yourself first, you know, like in speaking up?
At that time in my life, I kind of didn't, because I felt like, you know, the adults in my world and I think like a lot of us growing up, the adults are really in charge of our world. And I think there were times when not necessarily that I spoke up, but that I made choices that were for maybe for my best interest, whether I realized it at the time or not. I think I mentioned in my talk that I graduated from high school after 3 years because I knew I didn't love being in high school. I didn't love my situation that I was in general. So I think I felt like, and that was a plan. That had to be a plan.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, you
couldn't
chose that right
leave.
when you started,
Yeah.
right? You said?
So that was something that, I chose for myself and planned it out. And I didn't know necessarily where that was going to lead. I,
Oh, that must have been some intuition coming in. I just got that little right? Like, to get you ready for that moment.
yeah, I didn't know where that was going to go when I made a plan.
Yeah,
So, I just was like, listen, I know I need to be able to move from this space sooner than later. Now, I didn't expect to leave my home at the end of that summer after I graduated. I I didn't. That wasn't in my vision. My crystal ball didn't work properly, but it did. I mean, it worked out, and it worked out for the best. I did know that I wanted to take a year off before I went to college, so I would have been
yeah,
on track for college at the same age as my friends or whatever. So
right.
and I did that. I worked for a year and then actually moved out to California and then went to college from there. So yeah, I mean, sometimes we don't know, and I think frequently we don't know where our paths are going to lead when we make choices for ourselves. But again, this is
Right.
where if we can have some policies in place, if we can our personal policies in place, that will help us. And like you said, if we are in touch with our intuition and let that come through a bit, where it's like, this feels right for me, but I don't
Yeah,
necessarily know where it's going to lead. But let's go with
yeah.
it.
Right. I think everyone, of course, everyone, there's a theme in everyone's story about how does this feel? Does this feel right for me? Right? Like Christy going through your house again. I think that was the main theme is, does this feel right for me? Like, right? You were putting yourself first. Do you think there was anything that you may have left out of your talk in reclaiming your home?
Well, can you hear me okay? I'm sorry, I was having a little
Yeah,
okay, great. Um,
perfect.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, there's still so much of my house. I mean, I feel like you got just like such a little taste of so much of what I'm doing in my house. So I feel like, yeah, there's still so much story to tell.
And it's just the beginning. And you're going to do that
Yeah.
on YouTube, right? You said you're going to do a
Yes.
whole seseries.
Hmm.
Cool, cool. I loved the trees. I've been hearing about Christie's trees in her yard for like, I don't know, 3 years. So
2 years.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad you showed us the cool tree. I mean, yeah, how does a limb grow like that?
Yeah.
That's
And I
amazing.
just thought it was like, oh, it's just normal. And then all these experts are like, that's not normal. And there's two of them on the other, like you've got two totally
Right.
different trees doing the same thing.
Cool. And you feel that energy line in the back of your yard? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm looking to see if I have them here. I have dowsing rods that are two little U's and, they walk
yeah.
and then they go woo and then they come back together as you leave the energy line. So,
Ooh. Or water, right? Which I imagine
mhm.
same thing. It's
Yeah.
running through there.
Yeah, well, and there's like, I know I can tell you where the water line is in my front yard by,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Fun. Oh, that's a good way to practice, right? Everyone's got
Mhm,
water going to their house, so if you,
mhm,
because I've heard of people buying the dowsing rods and not sure how. Oh,
mhm.
yeah. Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very similar to dowsing with a pendulum, really. And really douse with a pendulum, and you don't even need a fancy thing. I actually took a dowsing class with somebody very fancy and knowledgeable, and like president of the Dowsers Association or something like that. And they taught us, they just brought out just pieces of string and acorns, and we just use that. And somebody mentioning I should mention what dowsing is. Dowsing is is a way to find both water and energy lines in the land. And you've probably seen even like Native Americans holding a Y stick. And water, it's easy to find water because electricity runs through water. Water's a wonderful conductor of electricity. So that's just a wonderful way to find different energy lines in our earth. And there are a lot of lines that just naturally run through the earth. And you can often find them because that is where major roads are, because originally it's where animals went through, and then men on horses, and then carriages, and then vehicles. So they paved the roads, and those are often where lines where weather changes. So if you notice, if there's a major highway where you live, that the weather is always a little like rains more on one side than the other, that's because of the energy lines in the earth.
I just had a vision of the 5 going up California. Like, yeah, there's a lot of, there's different energy. They even do that on the news. Like, okay, on this side of the 5 today.
Right.
Cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Where I live, east of the 75, it always rains way more.
That is really cool. Well, it's interesting to know. So now everyone can think of that next time you're watching the weather or just walking outside. So Michelle, your talk about finding your gifts while caring for your mother during or following a health episode with her was so interesting. But do you think you left anything out there when talking about that experience?
I think I left out how hard it was, how crazy it was. Like, I left out all of the feelings that I think. I mean, I had been using myself for years with clients. Sure, if I said that in my talk, definitely, I definitely.
Sorry, the audio was a little weird. Yeah, try that again.
A little weird. Okay. So from the beginning, did you hear the beginning part?
Oh, that's weird. It's just kind of like going in and out. I'm not sure why. Nope, can't hear you. Sorry. Okay, we'll come back. And you can play with that for a little while. But I know there's more in there. Because I know, Michelle, the way you said you love the data and everything, and maybe there was a little deeper you could go there. But yes, please play with the audio and we'll come back. Which means Julie, coming to Julie. Julie, I loved hearing about how you followed your intuition and left a job and went to a new place where it was like everything you wanted was waiting for you. Do you feel like you left anything out of your talk?
Boy, there's a lot of different directions. A big my sound okay? Yeah. The big thing is that people always look for the
it's a little.
What, you can't hear?
It sounds a little weird too. I can hear. Maybe if you turn your volume down a little bit.
Can't hear?
If you turn the volume down on your computer, that might help.
Okay, how's that?
And maybe.
Is that
I can hear you.
No. Okay.
Oh, I guess you have to hear me, don't you?
I hear you. It's like it's soft, but that's fine as long as it's okay for everyone else. I could yeah. I can.
That
Um,
is better. That is better.
okay, good. So I think the big thing is that people always look for like the and to move into the next phase of your life, and especially for those of us who have gone through a lot of different things. Maybe you had children, maybe not, but had different work and that the calling isn't always about your vocation. Your desire is really speaking with you, and what won't go away. And a lot of times, and I have a freebie on this you can download, blocking us, and we think we should do. We felt at 20 years old that we want to do,
Right.
and that we don't feel that way as much letting go of a dream that isn't going to happen because you really don't want it to happen. So some of it's giving yourself permission to let go and let the new things in. It's, you're not the same person that you were 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So, and the world is so different. Oh my God. 6-year-old daughter, and I think about what she experiences, has to go through in the fights that we fought years ago that are back again. So that brings up new things. I want to empower and help people answer their callings because right now. So that's it.
Yes. Yes. And you're kind of
That's
speaking a little bit to the talk that I did last year, which was very similar. How, okay, I had a law degree and I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and then the donut thing happened, and it's like, whoa,
oh
I
my
love
God,
it. This is what
that's
I
such
love.
a great example. I love your story. Yeah, very, very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Oh, and I realized there's a retreat center in Wisconsin that Julie was talking about, and I'm on their mailing list, but I've never been there. And Julie has taught classes there. So I really have to go. I have to try it. It looks beautiful, the setting.
The Christine Center, it's wonderful. You step on their land, and the vibration is amazing and so supportive, and they have wonderful things going on there. And I'm in some differences where I just go off of myself and for a few days and reflect, and I usually have a goal of writing or doing something or spiritually come through. So I'm that for everybody to take some time by yourself or with a good friend.
Yes. 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 Of course. Michelle, you want to try again? You want to see if the tech goddess, did you do a little spell, Isaiah, for us? Do you want to try to unmute, Michelle, and see if it's better? No? You can't. Oh my goodness. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We'll make it. We'll make it. Okay. So Christy, I have a question for you. I'm coming back to you now. Something I noticed in your talk,
Mhm.
and I wonder, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, and I'm sure you felt it.
Mhm.
But now it seems like you have grown, like, energetically in your house. Like, before
Oh,
you were
yeah.
making yourself small, right?
Mhm,
Making yourself
mhm.
small and getting out of the way. So what does that feel like? The taking up space and yeah, reclaiming
Yeah.
it, like, seriously reclaiming
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, my house just feels expansive, and it's fun just watching friends and people come over and experience it, especially who've seen it in different stages and going like, oh my gosh, it's amazing how much bigger your living room feels and how much better it is. And we're having a birthday party for my daughter next weekend. So at the house,
Mm,
which triggers all kinds of stuff that I am, going like, it doesn't have to be perfect.
right. Do you feel like you're standing differently in there? Like, are you walking differently through your house?
It's funny because it just feels it it's funny because it feels more right. It feels like instead of being uncomfortable, and I think that's a big part of like this summer that I just felt like I just like shut down and I was like, I can't do nothing. And I think I even wrote a newsletter about it last night that I realized like I think that some of that resting and shutting down was not just resting, but it was literally turning around. Like it's that thing of like the ship turning around, and in order to do that, to find the new current, I can say that now, feeling like I have taken some time to get through that. I just feel more me. I feel more right. It's not like, it's funny, it's not exhilarating in a way, but it just is more comfortable. And it just reminds me of a mentor that I had many years ago, that she said the three most important things, like in a relationship, and I'm thinking of the relationship in my home, is deep comfort, and deep comfort.
Nice.
So that's what I
Nice.
think I'm feeling, is a deepening of the comfort in my home.
Have you noticed, if you mind me asking about your daughter, have you noticed the way she acts or talks or walks through the house now? Is it different for her?
Yeah. And you have to, she has a very interesting experience with our home as a kid who experienced COVID in our home. So the world, COVID started when she was 6 and she's going to be 9 this week. So, she
Oh, wow.
experienced home as being in some ways the only safe place in the world, literally, in a sense, for her. Or the safest place in the world for her. So in that sense, she has, I think, become more of a homebody. She doesn't like to go out as much. But I definitely see her confidence in claiming our home. In fact, when, it came up that Dad was going to come out, she was like, so we get to take over the house now, because he kind of left 2 rooms, which she moved into his office, which was the biggest bedroom, so she's like, it's a big takeover. So that's what she called it. So it's, yeah.
Nice. Okay, Michelle, we're going to try again.
Yes.
Okay, I'm back.
Yay.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yay.
Oh, I love it. I have to surrender.
So do you think,
we have to surrender and breathe?
Do you think the episode with your mother, do you think that was the pushing you to, like, were you glimpsing these abilities that you had before, and then the episode like really showed you how connected you were?
So in my, I think, birth experience, I had a near-death experience in birth. In that moment, I realized there was happening in this entire experience of motherhood, if you will. And it wasn't, I mean, I had glimpses with my kids as they were young. Sensations. My youngest son has as a baby, hasn't really as a becoming a young man. But the situation with my mother, there's inklings of like strong sensations and knowing things. But I really thought initiation into motherhood. I thought that's what I wasn't until I had a particular client who, I won't mention her name, but I had a particular client that first time that someone's body was really sort of lighting in front of my eyes. And to not feel like you're stay composed and doing the work that I do with women, very intense in its own right, even without any up or anything, any part of the body really speaking to me. Interesting thing in dealing with my mother, not of working with my mother, is that I found outside of myself, like I wasn't for the situation, but it was I accessed a different part of my, it was as though I accessed part of my abilities. It was as though see and connect in with her different level, if that makes sense. Left out of the talk was how it was for me to sort of lean forward at times, listen to versus listening to what certain telling us, and just really trusting information that was coming through, trusting myself that I had with her. Like that was, if an instance to trust, it was in that moment. And you understand, anyone who's a mother who has mothered various, that real element of trust with your child. So
yes. So let me see, I'm checking out. So all of you, after you have joined and you were preparing talks, you were preparing, thinking about what you were going to talk about. And I'm going to start with you, Laura, to ask you, have you felt a shift? Have you felt new confidence, or is there some kind of growth that you've experienced in the last few weeks?
I mean, absolutely. This platform and you and Isaiah, as well as all of the women that are speakers, have, I mean, okay. Everyone is just so supportive, and I really appreciate you and Isaiah, just saying to us over and over, just be authentic, just be yourselves, just really, show yourself to the world. And it's really helped me visibility wise. It's really helped me as far as doing lives on Facebook. It's really helped me sharing my story. There is an emotional component, I think, for all of us, of putting our stories out there on whatever the story is. And again, this is just a part of my story, but it was also a huge springboard for me to write a chapter in the book that was just released in Entangled No More. And then that was a whole nother emotional journey. But I am so, this has been an incredible experience for me. And I couldn't be more grateful for all of this. And again, I love hearing everybody else's stories. I love the support in the group that we've all shared. And I love everybody's stories. Each one is incredible on its own, and everyone sharing the things that they've been through. We've been through incredible things, each one of us. And I'm not going to give it all away because I know there's still some talks to come, but I can't believe some of the things that we've lived through. And that to experience either transformation or finding our passions, our magic, whatever it is. But I am so grateful for this opportunity, and I'm so happy. I think I shared it in a live at some point, but one of the things is that I knew you guys. I mean, I saw some of the talks last year. I knew you put this out last year, and I didn't see the lead up to it. I just all of a sudden saw, hey, this is what's happening, and I signed up for it. But this year I saw that you were putting it out there again, and it wasn't even on my radar. It literally was like, oh, cool, you guys are doing it. And then at some point I was on a group call with Isaiah and she's talking about it. And it was like a light bulb. Like, why am I not doing this? I had no idea what I was going to talk about. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I knew I had to do it. And so again, I am just so grateful to you both for creating this, but also to all of the other speakers this year. I love all of you.
Thank you. I just had a follow-up question jump into my head. Do you think it even mattered what you talked about? I mean, don't you think like the growth comes anyway just by putting yourself out there?
Yeah, I mean, you clearly I had to talk about something. If you know, whatever it was, whatever it was going to be, yeah, the growth is the growth. I mean, whatever it is, I could have picked from a million of different things in my life that I'm sure I could have shared, because there are, like you said, you know, for me, the theme of my life is a funny thing happened on the way to my life. So let's just pick one and let's talk about it. So, I mean, they've been good, they've been bad, they've been challenging, they've been happy, they've been exciting, whatever it is. But yeah, the growth is the growth and it's huge. So thank you.
And I just want to let everyone know it's amazing that I wasn't aware of the timing of the book project at the same time, the launch. But I did get that on Amazon for like $1.23, and I encourage everyone. That's you know, another version of women's stories. And as Isaiah and I talked about in our talk, that is the bottom line: is sharing women's stories, making ourselves visible, and just speaking about our experience, whatever that might be. Every experience that we can share and talk about helps another woman in some way. And we may not see this ripple, we may not see where the ripple ends, but just by speaking up authentically and being you in front of other women is so valuable. So valuable right now.
I just want to say one thing about that as well, because I signed up, you know, I signed up for the summit way before I signed up for the book. And the book for me, it's only been a few weeks. It hasn't even been a month since I decided to do that. So I knew the timing and I was like, all right, here we go. Like, let's go if we're going. But that chapter, for me, that chapter in the book goes deeper. And
Okay.
so it is a lot more vulnerable for me, even than this, but still the growth from being in the summit helped me to be part of that. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So now I can't remember what I asked you first. Oh, Julie, have you noticed some growth, some more ease in being visible?
Oh, absolutely. It's been huge. When my first answer was, well, I'm going through a transition now, and I don't know, and because I was kind of shifting some of my work, and her response was like, well, if it's not this year, then maybe next year, very unattached. And I was like, oh, and then I realized, what have I been asking for? I've been really praying about, I needed a new container to make that. And so I said, because it's all about saying yes when you need to. And Chris, you and Isaiah have been phenomenal in making it very safe to do it. And I have an issue with perfectionists sometimes, and very much tied to procrastination. And the two of you were very much about just do it anyway, and let go. And so I get really backed up with tech to do a new website, and I have my blog site, and but it doesn't have everything I want to say. So it seemed to be a great opportunity to just have courage and just put it out there and not and let go of perfection. So I feel very excited
Yes.
about it. And all of you have been phenomenal. I've met some new people, and we've already created wonderful bonds and support because going out there and doing your thing, whatever it is, um, especially being a solo entrepreneur, to have and Christy hosts a wonderful uh, weekly, or you're bringing that back, working together, and her theme is we do hard things together, and that makes it so much easier to have that kind of support and accountability. And so yeah, I'm excited to
Yeah.
go there more and do more things.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, I want to remind everybody that the summit came to be because of Christy and her power hours. And I'm very thankful it's starting back up. But if you're interested in hearing more about that, you can join Christy's community, which she mentioned in her talk, the Haven of My Enlightenment Home. She likes to help us get things done and get rid of the things that we don't like and bring in the things that we do like. So holding that space has been valuable for me, and I know other women. So thank you, Christy. Did you already mention, like, have you felt like, I just can't imagine the change that you've been going through in the last year since, you know, before the last summit,
Right.
like you just keep signing on for more and more.
Yes, and thanks. I keep thinking through this whole thing of the moment. I remember the moment that the spark of this happened, and Chris was talking about wanting to do a summit, and she was originally, you were talking about how maybe we could go to different like college towns, and then you said, but this was during COVID because we started doing the empowered hours during COVID. Group virtual co-working times, and Chris is like, but we could start it online, and Isaiah was like, I've got the software, we can do it. And Chris, you're kind of like, yeah, that'd be kind of fun. And Isaiah was like on that, man. She's like,
oh yeah,
she's like, we can do this, I've got the software, ever the tech goddess. And it was just like one of those, I still just remember that moment, and it felt important back then, like the Chris, you just having this lightness about you of like, I think this would be great. Or as Chris likes to say, that'd be fun, and like, let's just do this. And Isaiah in her, single focus of like, we're doing this, and the alchemy that happens with you two in that moment, it still just tickles my heart so much.
Well, it just occurred to me that you've been providing space for us women solo entrepreneurs to be seen and heard. Like that's how the power hours start. And I just, it's so valuable just to have those few minutes to speak about what we're working on, or, what we're thinking about working on. And so, yeah, thank you for providing that space for us to come together and meet each other.
Yeah. And get to know each other in that sense, like to know what each other's smiles and laughs look like, and not a line in a Facebook group, that we have really gotten to know each other. And I'm really grateful. Like, that's why I keep doing it, because I need it too.
So you must, I mean, you've talked about your change, but like, if there was a graph that showed your growth and change over the last 18 months.
I don't even know if I can completely put it together, but I have to say, I think there's some proof in what I felt after, because I've been recording myself doing things in my home and doing time lapse of me, cleaning out some area and redoing it. But I haven't really put it all together until this talk was really the first time I've really talked that much and shown some stuff. And I was kind of like, part of me was like, oh, the trees, that's so like like it almost felt like it was crossing a boundary because they're so sacred to me. I know I talk about them in our group a lot,
Yeah.
but I was like, no, and you need to show your spray, and oh, somebody's asking, how do we sign up to be with you ladies in Christy's Power Hour? If you go to my Facebook group, which is Haven of My Enlightenment, you can request to join that, and I always have the times and dates in that group. And you can sign up for my newsletter, which I also, through signing up for that, and I also put out the times on the newsletter too that I do. I try to do weekly. This summer, everything came to a halt. But what I was trying to also saying, thank you for asking that. Thank you, Isaiah. She's going to put a link in there, of course. You're so awesome. If you go into our Women Lighting the Way group, last Friday, I did a series of lives of me reclaiming my front door, which sounds so stupidly mundane. But I felt so naked, and it wasn't because I was outside, but I was hot. I mean, I live in Florida. It's hot. It's buggy. I felt so unglamorous, but I also felt so free of the power, just even from watching all of the other speakers being so vulnerable and honest. And so I shared so much of like every step of the healing process of what I was releasing and my intentions and the energy that was going on. Like when you think of like how many people, my front door is 52 years old, how much energy has gone through that door, and how, even just the energy of living with somebody that, as my daughter recently said to me, so why aren't you, I know you and dad weren't good, but why aren't you together? And I'm trying to, say something, and I finally just said, we weren't a vibrational match anymore. And she just looked at me and she goes, yeah. And I was
That's
like, okay,
the best
so when you're
answer.
not a vibrational match with somebody,
Yeah.
thank you.
That is a great answer.
We're just, and it's so true. Like we're just not a vibrational match anymore. And so I shared, I think if you go and you watch my talk and then you watch the series of my lives of me, sanding the door and talking about it and sweating and the bugs and painting the primer and painting the door blue. It went from red to blue. And why I chose blue. That was such a deep healing place. Like I had such a hangover, like an emotional healing hangover. When you do really deep work and you have that like hangover the next day where you're like, oh, what happened? That's how I felt on last Saturday. I was so run over from the healing process. I mean, my arms were sore from the sander, but I was inwardly sore from that level of sharing. And I just saw how much more, even though I know it was lives and I know there were some people that were commenting, but oh my God, being able to share this depth that was coming up was so powerful. And I feel like it was like my talk 2.0. So I'm really excited to keep sharing this journey because this is what I do with people, but I'm doing it with myself. So
You said your door's 52 years old. I'm like, I'm 52 years old. I've gone through like, yeah, there is a lot of energy coming and going, and I could use a new look now and again.
Right? Maybe a little facial, like a little exfoliation. I know I'm 50, so I'm just right there.
So Michelle, coming back to you. How about you? Have you noticed any new growth, new energy, new confidence since joining and signing up?
Well, like everybody else, I think that the two of you are incredible for putting this together, for bringing us all together, keeping it very tight and keeping us on task. So that has been amazing. And the women I've met through this have been next level incredible. Like every one of them. We've had Zoom meetups. Some of you guys have done body whisper sessions. It's just been amazing. It's been amazing. So, in terms of new confidence, I mean, I feel like isn't confidence an ongoing work of art? I mean, I feel like that's just in, especially as we all gather time and we move into, this whatever reinventions we're doing at any given moment. I feel like we're always kind of reaching and trusting and maybe working on an edge per se. Uh, New confidence. I just love the support. I love feeling like there's a lot of women around and they're just watching and waiting, so that's been amazing. I feel very blessed to be able to have this opportunity to sort of come out of the spiritual closet, if you will, with such a beautiful group of women. Like I've been doing this for years, and I
Yeah.
think we're more or less all connected through Joanna Hunter. I mean, sweet Joanna, like the years of her listening to me go on and on. It's just funny. And finally, she's like, finally, it's so amazing. Like you've done it. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to do it with such love and support and to feel so held. And I think part of that is, of course, my wanting to do this, feeling as though I'm capable and I'm owning it, but also just having such a beautiful group of women has been so amazing. So yeah, yes to
So
all
what
of
do you
you.
think?
Yeah.
What do you think that does to a woman energetically? Like when a woman when it feels safe to be
Mhm.
seen and heard, like where is that showing up, or how do you think that affects us?
Well, I think one of the biggest things I think is it does is it connects us both to many generations and millennia of our tribal ways, connects us both back and forward to all of the people that are ripple and who we become as we step into the fullest version of ourself. I think we sort of bring those two parts of us together, and it certainly raises our vibration because we are healing as we do this work.
Yeah.
What it took for me to say this and be who I am took a massive amount of personal healing, which of course raised my vibration. And it's an ongoing process, right? And as we raise our vibration, we put out a different frequency, and that frequency not only helps me, in my mission to really change the trajectory of women's health, but it brings women together in a way that they maybe wouldn't have been together. I mean, Laura is the one who recommended that I come do this. Thank you, Laura, so much. I love you more than life. And, because of Laura, and I sort of knew you guys through Joanna, but I didn't know you. Like I'd never spoken to you guys one by one. So by Laura having this moment and writing her chapter and signing on and doing her talk and saying, Michelle, I really think you should do this. Like she said it to me a couple of times. Like she kind of lit the fire, right? Like Laura lit the fire under the bum. And then I did it. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, of course, why have I not seen this? Why have I not done this? I didn't know about this summit last year. I was connected to you guys through Joanna. I was connected
Hmm.
through Joanna. I never saw Joanna's talk in this. I never saw. So it's like, as we do this
Wow.
work, the ripple touches. So it touched me at a moment where I was ready to step up. I was already doing it, but here I am. And then I wanted to be here. I wanted to do this. And then of course the beauty is connecting with all of you. So I hope that answers your question of like, I think
Yeah.
it heals vibrationally through, many generations, past and future. And then I also think it brings women together that are meant to be together.
Yes, yes. So, Michelle, I I don't know what I did. I wrote a post or I said something because I loved it so much. When you talk about us gathering time, I love
Mm.
that. I love that phrase. Um, and I did a session with Michelle, and I just have to say how bizarre it was. I've had 4 kids. I mean, no, it was here's the bizarre part. The bizarre part was talking about my womb space, and I was like, "Where is she going?" why is she going into my womb space? And it was all, I mean, I was like almost crossing my legs, like, what, like, and like, you gave me permission to talk about it and to even look there, to investigate what was going on, because that is our zone of creation. That is where our power lies. And you talked about that with me, our sacral chakra, and that's where it happens. And having not been in touch with that area in myself, like, I can just imagine the work that you have to do, and the women who are out there waiting to also explore that area. But not, it's just, it to me, it's bizarre that I'm a woman of 52 who has had 4 kids, and somehow I'm like, oh, should we talk about that? Should I let her, like, how many goddamn males have probably had their hands and eyes inside my space? And I was like, oh, another woman. Oh my gosh. So I have a little bit of growth and work to do there. So I greatly appreciated that. And Julie, I'm coming back to you because I have a question for you. And I'm wondering, you talked a lot about trust, getting rid of fear and trusting yourself, decisions and those moves. Did you have a phrase or a mantra or a practice that you kept coming back to remind yourself that you were acting with trust?
It's really my own personal practice. I work with the energies of the Shekhinah, which is the in the feminine energy of God. That's really closest to us, closest to the earth, and that's a lot of my source where I feel like I do check-ins, like, is this the right thing? And a lot of it is a discipline to actually go in and do that, because it's a lot easier. Just, we know this, we all have lots of tools, and it's easier not to write, not to pray, not to meditate, not to connect. So that's core of what really helps move me forward. And a lot of it, when I talk about kicking fear to the curb, it's those voices in our head that constantly tell us no, or bring up the fearful thing, or over involve us in things that really aren't important, like other people's lives that have nothing to do with you. Or I get very political things, which is, all of that's fine to keep in moderation. But when we use that as an excuse, it becomes another addiction not to do what we're meant to do and not to move forward. And another thing, the other question that you asked about how this has changed, it's really a life again. So when my husband or daughter have issues going on, it's like I'm able to take that so much more in stride, because I feel on purpose and I feel passionate. So a simple thing that I do often when some of the negativity comes up is I just do like a just like really just cutting it off and like taking back control.
Ooh.
And I'll
Wow.
often do the head shake. And I swim a lot. And of course, you're swimming, there's no distractions. And so in the middle of that, sometimes those voices, those things will start coming in. And I'll just stop myself right there. I'll start treading and be like, shh, we're not going there. We're not talking. To kind of really take back your power.
Wow.
All of that. So that's been a real good thing. But for each person, it's finding, to me, it's finding that divine connection, whatever that is for you. Religious, not religious, it doesn't really matter. It's just where you feel that we have tremendous support. I have a prayer that I use. I call it all angels. It's an ancient prayer before I get time, and I feel safer. Oh, I'm feeling the angel. I'm feeling that energy right now. We're talking. we're not alone. And I think that's so important for everyone to remember, because at the end of the day, we can have lots of physical support around us, but when we're alone at night and we have sometimes those dark thoughts start coming in, when we can take that moment, connect with the divine, the source, the energy, whatever is meaningful for you, and feel that presence, even if it's not real physical. Sometimes I feel like a real physical presence to things. I love watching my animals to see how they respond, because animals see things that we can't. So I'm like, but to just have that peace within yourself, and hush out the darker. We all have the darker parts within us, and just to let those not be driving.
I really appreciated you bringing in your religion and how you are religious and you follow Judaism, and at the same time, you follow spiritual principles, which aren't, mutually exclusive, of course. But I appreciate you sharing that part of you.
Yeah, I'm not religious in the sense of being observant. Um, a lot of the traditional or orthodoxy ways, I respect that. And actually what I found, and I really feel like this is if you go deeper into the mystical aspects of a lot of religion, mystical Christianity, you had mentioned, Chris, the Christine Center, they're based on that. I have met wonderful Franciscan nuns that really embody that, and often in traditional forums for religion or churches, you don't see that. And the same with Judaism. There's a deep mysticism. A lot of the new principles really come from there. So yeah, for all of us, if we dig a little deeper, there's a lot of richness there.
So if there was one thing you would want attendees to take from your talk, what would it be, Julie?
That you were made for more. If you're not satisfied with where you are, and that you're just as you are, and what that might be for you to be more fulfilled. We're not talking about perfection, but for you to be out in the world and be able to feel a full expression of your soul, because we all came here for different reasons. And to go for it and to get the support that you need, and this panel over, and to reach out for that. I think all of us wouldn't be here without having other coaches and teachers and people that really help us along, and that's been the difference, I know, for me. And
Awesome. Awesome. Laura,
to go
how
for it
about
and get
you?
what you need. You just
sorry. No, thank you, Julie. If there's one thing that you want people to take from your talk, Laura, what would it be?
I would say to make the radical choice, to choose yourself. And that, again, I mentioned in my talk that, we've been told down the line, like, no, don't, be kind to others first, make sure you put others first, be the good girl. Okay, you can be the good girl and take care of yourself first. Like, that's the thing. You aren't going to be able to help others if you aren't taking care of yourself first. And like they say, when you get on the airplane, in case of emergency, put on your mask first. You're not going to be able to help anyone until you put yourself first. And again, and having second to that would be having personal policies, because sometimes if you don't have those, if you don't have your personal policies in place, if you don't have your queen code, how are you going to know? How are you going to know what are your guidelines? What are your, seriously, I know a lot of people don't like the word boundaries, but what are your boundaries? How are you going to know where you are, where you're going, what you'll accept, what you won't accept if you don't do that? But make the radical choice, put yourself first. choose you.
Yes, thank you, Laura. Michelle, what do you want people to take away from your talk?
I want people to take away from my talk the deep connection. And I know the health and wellness space is what I'm about to say is everywhere. But I think to truly believe in your body beyond anyone else, beyond any other modality, beyond anything else, this vessel that we get to inhabit for, if you're lucky, like I say, nobody wants to age. No, everyone wants to turn back the clock. Everyone wants to defy time. And the reality is if we're lucky, we get 70, 80, maybe 90 years. It's an experience to be able to grow and expand in this human form, and to sort of transcend all outlines, numbers, colors, height, weight, all of that, and to really go inward and to connect with your body on. I mean, somatic doesn't even begin to describe it. There's, the electromagnetic frequencies that we are and emanate. There's, who we are, the way our organs work together or don't work together, the energetic connection you have with certain people and not with other people. Like, to really trust the body, because it is a brilliant vessel. It is perfectly designed. And contrary to what we would all like to believe, it is working in our greatest favor always. Even when it feels like it's failing us, it's actually bringing us back to our truth over and over and over again.
Wow. I got like a zap while you were saying that. We're supposed to be here, right, to grow through relationships, but man, is our body a teacher for us, right? For acceptance and growth and love. I have not thought of that before.
And
Thank
really,
you, Michelle. Yeah.
you're welcome. And just to add one more thing, to really believe that pain, we are so indoctrinated with get rid of pain and that health is the absence of. And in reality, health is actually not the absence of. I would say that health is going deeper into the sensations that we feel, that we experience, that are uncomfortable, to really go deeper into that instead of trying to lessen it or get rid of it, but actually to lean into those elements. And the growth and expansion that happen from that place is beyond. And the hard thing is that that's really uncomfortable, that can be a lonely, scary place for a lot of people, to do that by themselves. So I'm with you about, was it Julie, was it you that said get the support? Doing it with someone else is by far makes it a different experience in and of itself. So I just wanted to add that to the end.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Christy, what would you like attendees to take from your talk?
Wow. I think we're all, if you've come to the talks, to this panel, to the panel tomorrow, you're on some kind of growth path. And I think for me, I'm passionate about connecting our homes and our souls. So whoever has inspired you to take some of that and infuse it into your home. In fact, I made a little worksheet in the PDF. Oh, where we go? Here we go. I made a little PDF just to help you figure out like what's inspired you of all the speakers and what, quotes or ideas, and how to help your home reflect that back to you, so that as you flow through your home, everywhere you look, it's feeding you these great new thoughts, ideas, inspirations that you've had, through these 3 days of the summit, of being able to help you just make it that much easier to integrate and align with how you want to shift. So that's
Cool. Where's the worksheet?
It's in the PDF when you, right? This is part of the PDF.
Okay.
So all the speakers created a one page, and so you get a workbook of one page from everybody. So this is my page, And it's to help you look at what has inspired you and how to express it in your home, whether it's like through a Post-it note or, you know, a crystal, or, you know, lighting a candle, or literally, you know, spray painting the side of your garage door, you know, whatever works for you.
I love how, so we're all members of Joanna Hunter's Divine Planning Abundant Profits, which kicks off a live round soon. Woo!
Woo!
It's amazing, the new stuff, like every time stuff comes up, doesn't it? But it's amazing how we all, I mean, we're working toward the same goal, right? But in so many different areas. And that's really cool. That's really cool. And I'm so grateful for you all joining. Isaiah, do you want to jump in? And you've been handling all our issues the whole time.
I can do that. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I had a question actually for all of you. One of those annoying questions that people ask. If I was going for your experience of the whole summit, of finding, deciding what you were going to talk about, creating this talk that is kind of a bit of your story, then recording it, then, you know, coming to the live panels, blah, 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 the whole thing. What is one word that would sum up your experience? Or, okay, I'll give you a sentence, because I know that one word is one of those annoying things. You're allowed a sentence, you know. How could you sum up the whole experience? Because I believe that we have now agreed with Chris that this is not the final edition of Women Lighting the Way. We're going for a third edition next year. So we'll be opening up doors for new speakers. And I believe that it's an amazing experience for attendees, but it might also be quite an amazing experience for you guys. So, but I'm not sure I can define it, because I've not been a regular speaker in any of the summits, because, you know, when you're organizing. So yeah, how would you define your experience all through that? What has, I've heard the word growth a lot. Does that make sense? Or do you want to find another word or sentence for that?
I mean, I would say for sure inspiration and growth. Growth is a great word for it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would say transformational and pushing beyond your comfort zone, your bound self.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think both Chris and myself, we like pushing people out of their comfort zones, including the attendees, because listening to you, to all your stories, might be really kind of pushing the attendees out of their comfort zones. And I think that I like that. I like that, because as my personal conviction is that there is nothing happening in our comfort zones. Never, nothing ever happens there. So, sorry, Christy, it seemed like you were going to talk and then I interrupted.
No, I agree. I feel like for me, it's given me so much more confidence, but I also just love the connection that has come, you know, that word container that you, Isaiah, and Chris have created for us to connect. Like, you know, we have a separate Facebook group for the speakers, and this place that you created for us to feel safe and encouraged, and as I call Isaiah and her fuzzy bunny slipper kick in the butt sometimes, you know, just helping us, you know, really be courageous and share our stories. I'm so grateful for both of you, because it's been such a healing and transformational experience for me again.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we actually invited some of you to come back for a second year. So there's you're a returning customer, an alumna, we say politely. And then Ruth Sandoval, who should have been here today but is not feeling well. Maybe she'll join in tomorrow's panel, who knows? And then there's Katish Haberfield, who is from Australia, and she's in tomorrow's panel. And I think that for both Chris and myself, it was also a very interesting thing to reach out to alumni and say, hey, do you want to come again? Because for me, it increases this idea that I want to promote, that stories are never ending, that we are transforming our stories, writing more of them day by day, that we are creating our lives as we walk with our dreams, our thoughts, our ideas, and basically putting the law of attraction into action every minute of our lives. So the fact that we have returning speakers coming to kind of, it's like a TV show now. We have new episodes. What's in the story now? And you know, if you know me, you know that I'm a TV show fan. So yeah, Michelle, did you want to tell us about, you know, what is the one thing that you will take out of this experience?
Sure. As in terms of being a speaker, it's been soul expansive to me. I mean, my soul has truly stepped into who I am now, who I desire to be, the desire I wish to take my voice and my work. So it was definitely a soul expansion process.
That's
And
awesome.
I agree with you 100% that when women show up and tell elements of themselves or stories, that we carry on this very beautiful ritual of, you know, the art of storytelling, but also the art of connection.
Yeah, and for me, I believe that we are, in this summit, we are participating into creating a library of women's stories that future generations can, can find, because basically there are no women's stories. We have men's stories, and then we have the token women fake stories like Marie Curie, obviously, but we don't have the day-to-day mundane stories of women living their lives, which are just as amazing, just as revolutionary, or just as fun, sad, happy. And so I feel that, and we now feel that it's part of our mission, basically, to participate to this library. And I want to thank you for coming and joining your voices. I'm a singer myself, so I'm always happy when there's more voices to sing together. And every one of you and every one of the speakers last year and in the future years has got a unique voice. And so it's so important that every tonality of your voice can be heard. And that's why we insist, like crazy women, around authenticity. Now, if you're an attendee and you're listening to this, I'm going to go and promote a little bit of our talk. And I mean Chris and my talk, mostly because we created an amazing freebie. And it connects to all of that. We have a freebie that is all about your journey, your story, how to uncover your story, how to work through the layers of conditioning of, oh, that's not interesting, oh, nobody cares about this bit, or whatever, and just dig deep. So Chris has created some amazing journaling prompts, and I recorded a meditation that will take you through visiting 8 goddess archetypes. And you can actually listen to the meditation that will help you journal on remembering, uncovering the bits of your story that you have dismissed, maybe, because sometimes even the biggest things are not important, but the tiny ones might be in your story. And these are the ones that might propel you to the next chapter of your life. So yeah, if you go and listen to our talk in the Hey Summit platform, and you will find the link. I try to put it everywhere to register, even if some of the talks are already behind us. You can still register as an attendee, obviously, and you can still get all the freebies including Chris and myself, Your Journey, Your Story PDF with the meditation. Voila. So, by the way, speakers, you're also allowed to get all the freebies of the other amazing speakers and have fun with them, And as for the PDF that Christy was mentioning earlier on, just so that there is no confusion. This PDF is a separate PDF. It's one that comes with the whole summit, and you will get it. All the attendees will get this PDF with Christy's page, and every speaker has her page on that as well. You will get that in the middle of next week, to remind you to watch the replays before they vanish into thin air.
Something I wanted to mention, Isaiah, that I think is a byproduct, but also such an integral piece of an event like this and having a group of women like this, is the trust that it fosters and the trust that is built. Because and we didn't get into this. I mentioned it a few times in us talking, Isaiah, about topics that we were going to discuss, and that was the witch wound and how that distrust of other women, or the idea of competition, how that just pops up throughout our lives, from the time we're kids to high school, college, and beyond. And so I want to thank everyone for trusting us and for trusting the attendees and the other speakers with your story and being vulnerable and being here, just your presence, and coming in with us, because I think that's other important point.
Trusting yourself that you had a story, that you could find it, that you could write it, that you could then proceed to record it, and that you would overcome any fears, any tech difficulties, anything, and just end up showing up for yourself, making the radical choice of showing up for yourself and trusting that, because I think that even for the alumna, there was no guarantee at the beginning that this was going to happen. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm still, kind of amazed that all of you did deliver, and I want to congratulate you.
Yes. Well, as we talked about in our talk, Isaiah, I think we finally, it was a fun thing to begin with for me. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if we all got together and talked about our stuff? And, so last year's kind of like a fun project, right? And then afterward, we saw the effect. We saw what it took for everyone, we're like, hey, you want to come play with us? For everyone to say yes and then do all the work. And we realized it was work. It was more than creating a PDF and recording your talk. It was, like you said, showing up and speaking from the heart. And now I can see, and Isaiah we can see how this is serving women. And right now I'm in it. Like, I'm committed to continuing this because it's so much. I mean, it's just so much wrapped up into one. We're learning tech skills, we're creating things, but then the mindset. So that was the one thing I think we missed this year. I thought it was more tech, and I think we pushed the tech a little bit. Everybody who maybe you don't have a freebie, or you don't have your website you don't have your website completely finished, and all those little pieces that go into the summit. I was looking at it as, oh, these are the things that matter. These are the things that we all need to learn. And really, it's just giving ourselves the permission to speak, to be heard, to be visible, to not be the good girl. I want the good girl. I want that to be like, don't you call me a fucking good girl. I'm not your good girl. I'm nobody's good girl. Like, yeah, we need more of that.
As a tech goddess, I must say that it's never about the tech. It freaking never is about the tech. Can we ask one final question to you, lovely panelists? And that would be, since you have watched, I guess, some of the talks at least of the summit, was there one moment of something that particularly touched you, moved you, kind of, that you connected with another speaker? Because I believe that this is also part of the experience for you guys, not only your own story, but meeting very closely some other people's stories. I'm not going to ask one or the other, so whoever wants to, and if no one wants to, I can go.
I can definitely, as I told you guys earlier, like I feel sort of like I'm coming out of the spiritual closet. I feel a bit new. I mean, I've been doing spiritual work for, many years, but I wouldn't call myself someone who's been doing what I do for 20 years. So when I listened to Julie's talk and I listened to her talk about the Akashic records and working with this on this level of spirituality 20 years ago, I literally can't imagine what that felt like, Julie. I was in awe of that because I know where I was 20 years ago. I know what I was doing, and I know what my work was at that point, which was not what I'm doing now. And to think about not having, this element of social media and this element of the internet for people to even go and look up really quickly, like, what are the Akashic records? Like, what does that even mean to some people? To imagine working in that, I was in awe of that. So thank you for being who you are and doing this work for so long. And as I learned in your talk, it isn't I mean, I know people who are of the Jewish faith, and it's not commonplace to combine spiritual aspects and religious, organized religion. And you've put, it seems to me, I don't know you very well, but it seems that you've put them together and made it very apart, like embodied it in the fullest. And so I was really drawn to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I don't think I can pick one moment because there's so much that I love about so many. I was really touched by Trudy and Tracy, their sisters, their vulnerability and sharing some of the things that they shared. I love Christy's colorful talk. I can't really talk about Christy without saying colorful Christy because she is. I love her. I loved Michelle's talk. I already knew some of Michelle's story because she's been on my podcast, but even so, just to know, what you went through with your mom. And yeah, the dream team is the sisters, Tracy and Trudy are the dream team. That's what I like to call them. But Michelle and your story, and just to get a little bit deeper, maybe even with that, and see how since our podcast episode, how you've even embraced it even more. And then I was also really struck by Isaiah and Chris, and I didn't know the story behind the summit. And so I really loved your talk as well. So I'm sorry, I can't pick. I mean, it's like picking a favorite child. I loved them all for different reasons, but I think those really particularly touched me. I love that Christy shared her home and all the things and the transformation there. And I just love it all.
I know that when I was asking that, I was asking for trouble also, because I agree that there's something amazing in each of the talks. But I know that sometimes we hear something, and I do hope that every attendee that comes in has some, there's one sentence, one moment of one talk that just basically changes their lives. And so I was wondering, sometimes we have this kind of thing that goes like, oh, I've never heard that before. I've heard it 25 billion times, said by 25 different people, but this is the time when it hits home for me. And I really hope that your talks will do that for someone, because I believe that this is why you were here, even if you don't know it. Not so much for yourself.
Yeah, I will say there was something in Michelle's, and now I can't think of what it was that did that to me. I have to go back over notes. And also with Christy, who we've known each other for years, and have such wonderful work, and I've worked with you. And but you said a line in your talk about when we go through this meditation, and then you open your eyes, and you're like, ugh. And that, like, my physical space has been a challenge for me. I have ADHD among other things, and that's that. And I feel like, oh, I'm really trying to shift that. And so I was so exciting to see all the new things that you did in your house. And when you said that line, that really stuck with me. Like, boy, you could do all the other stuff around you, and if you're not kind of addressing literally what's right in front of you, you're like blood pepper. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I agree. I liked that. Like, that made me think also, like, when you wake up in the morning, like, you immediately like, oh, like, time to get rid of that. Just chuck it, change it, put something you love in front of you. Yeah, I like that too, Julie.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing all of that. Oh, Michelle's saying she put flowers in her room after that sentence, Christy. That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was touched by everyone. I was lucky enough, and I am every year, to watch all the talks long before they actually appear for anyone else, because I'm the person that checks that everything is okay, and then does a little bit of editing. And it was really interesting because I was freaking surprised. None of you were where I expected them, and that was really interesting. I'm not going to go into everyone and explain that, but I was like, okay, in my head I had this idea of roughly what your talk was going to be, since you had a title basically, and it was always different. And that was really very instructional. Do you say that? For me, educational for me, because that means that I create things in my head instead of just being open to what I receive. And so again, as an attendee, I want to thank you for telling your stories and surprising me and catching me unguarded with revelations from each and every one of you, in one sentence, one word, or the whole talk. I've not had the chance to work with Michelle yet, but I will very soon. And I must say that this connection with the body is something that I've been longing to find, not only for myself but for the world. And so I think that there's a huge, for me, there's an importance there, kind of something that is not, and that is not discussed in the spiritual world mostly. There's so many people in the spiritual world that behave as if we were pure thoughts, angels and unicorns, basically. And I feel that for me, I need the grounding of being in my body. And I'm so happy that I'm not the only one. And that you you came here to remind us of that.
Someone just made a comment of remembering to connect, get out of your head. And I need something around me, Christy, that says, like, I try to do that every morning, try to take a deep breath and focus on my heart space and get out of my head. And that's something, do more often.
So the person that wrote the comment is called Holly. And she says, I'm going to read it because it doesn't appear everywhere. I had a wake-up reminder during the talks. I heard from source, open to spirit for guidance. I considered my work to be based in source, but realized I have been stuck in my head. And that, I think it's really so interesting. Even not, that we're so, sometimes I am going to speak for myself. I'm so stuck in my own head that I'm not even open to source, although I pretend that I am. So, but in fact, I'm turning around there. And I think that maybe the way out of my head is not up, but it's down to the body first. So thank you, Michelle.
Yeah. Laura, do you have something?
I just had one thing I wanted to say about Christy's talk that I'd forgotten about. I was so impressed when you talked about how inclusive you were about asking your daughter and including her in what you were doing. And there was one thing in particular you said that I don't remember, but it just was so touching to me because if you listen to my talk or if you read my chapter in the book, you'll know that my parents didn't really do that. And so it really meant a lot to me to know that when you are doing this work that you do and transforming your home, you're so inclusive of her and so thoughtful of her, and allowing her to make some choices. And I think that's so important. And I think a lot of parents maybe don't realize sometimes that we really need to include our children in some of this stuff. It's happening to them as well as to you, and maybe even more so sometimes. So thank you.
Yeah, she's going to be one of the leaders in that generation, Christy. You know, like we can see it, can't we? From Gen Z or Gen O to Gen Z, and then after, like those voices, they're coming.
I know.
They've been listening to us.
I know. She decided to stay home. She's supposed to be with right now, but we had huge thunderstorms and she just wasn't feeling, she's really rattled right before this panel. So I thought I was going to be home alone. And just as I was starting, I'm like, okay, unless, the house is burning down or something's really bad, I need, and right before we started, I get a note slipped under my door that says my nose is bleeding. And then there's another little piece of paper that gets slipped under the door that says now.
Oh gosh.
And so I appreciate you saying that because I've been having a little mama guilt. I when I went out to find my earphones, I'm like, are you okay? She goes, oh, I'm fine. But at the moment it was like, so I appreciate you saying that. There's my human side. I've been sitting here looking at this little paper that says my nose is bleeding. So, and she's fine. She's totally fine. I have empowered her to, be okay. And I heard my mom come in the door at some point, so all is well. But thank you for saying that because it is really important to me that she feel that this is her home and that she has a voice. And yeah, because I've worked with a lot of families and a lot of kids and really have seen kids just blossom when I get to come in their room and the parents just go talk to them. I don't know what they want. Just go talk to them. I don't get my kid. And just being able to sit down and go, so what do you want in here? Like, what do you need? And getting to unpeel like what they need. And it's the same as adults. It's like, what do you really need in your space to support you so that you feel like it's you? So thank you for saying that.
Awesome. I'm going to share the link for the sign up situation for all of you. If you have not watched the talks from day 1 and day 2, you can still watch them on replay for 7 days. You can also watch the talks from day 3, so from tomorrow live. By signing up, you get access to all the freebies of the summit as well. You get access to a giveaway because each of the speakers is giving a giveaway, and all the replays are for free for 7 days. Now, I just want to mention, just in case, that you can also buy the summit. We've not discussed that very much, so I'm going to say it. You can also buy the whole package of the summit and you get access to everything for life for $39. And the money that we collect with this does not go in our pockets. It goes to an organization called Kiva. And it's basically, we are helping out women entrepreneurs in third world countries or in difficult situations with micro loans. So we are lighting the way in a different way with that money too. So if you want to support that as well. And of course, we first pay my expenses because I've got all this amazing tech to pay for. So once the tech is paid for, although it's not very expensive, we give everything to Kiva. And what I love with Kiva is that it's a loan. So the money comes back to us and then we give it again and again and again. So that means that we can help repeatedly women. And we have decided that every cent goes on women entrepreneurs. So we are helping out other women in a different level or in a different scale, but still other women who are changing the world in their part of the world. And I'm so happy that we can do that as well. So I want to say that. Voila.
Yay! Yay, Isaiah! That makes me feel proud. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, me too.
I hope you all feel good about being part of this and about helping us do that as well, because without you signing up, we wouldn't have anything to donate. So thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for being here for the live panel. Tomorrow is more focused on the non-American speakers. So that is at, it'll be live in the group again at 1 p.m. UK time, which would be 7 a.m. for Central for the US. Not too bad. So join us tomorrow for the other half. And those talks are tomorrow, but there may have been one or two of those talks today. So I can't wait to hear from everyone tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank
so tomorrow we
you.
have the second half of the panelists and I'll be asking the questions.
Yay, yay.
Thank you very much, each and every one of you speakers for
Yes.
being here. We think about Ruth also because we haven't mentioned her talk, but I want to mention that she just blew my mind with this amazing thing that she was not able to record it. There was so much difficulty. And at some point she was like, I'm going to give up. It's not going to work. And I said, how about if you actually talk in your talk about why you cannot record this? And that opened up a completely different talk for her and a complete revelation for the listener, I'm sure. So go and listen to that as well, which is like out of this world. Thanks, Chris, for holding the panel. And I'm going to let you finish.
I think you were holding it.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You were the host. I'm done now.
And thank you everyone for registering. You can keep doing that for the next 5 days and watch all the replays and get all the freebies. But the sooner you sign up, the sooner you're entered into giveaways, drawings for the next few talks. So thank you. Thanks everyone. See you tomorrow.